This is the Black Cyber Podcast. The revolution is streaming now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Black Cyber Podcast. Want to get into this episode really quickly. On last Tuesday, I took the CISSP exam. Unfortunately, I did not pass it. Um, First, I want to talk about my score report for the exam. Then I want to talk about what I did right. Then I'll talk about what I actually did wrong on the exam as far as preparing for the exam, and then my game plan going forward. So, real quickly, just to recap, took the exam last Tuesday, did not pass, but I was within range. So here's my score report. Security, architecture, and engineering got above proficiency level. Uh, Communications and network security got above. Identity and access management got above. Security and risk management got above. Security assessment and testing got above. Asset security, I got near proficiency. And I did not do well in security operations and software development security. Those two domains were below. So first let's talk about what I did right. Number one, I purchased the Peace of Mind voucher, which is basically two tries for the price of one. I'll say almost price one. It's a little more than regular price, but definitely not paying double for two exams. So it's a little bit over paying for one exam, but you're still getting a major discount. So this describes, number one, describes why I took some calculated risks with the prep and kind of getting the um, exam try out the way. So number two, what I did right is during the exam, I used the thing like the manager method that I talked about in my last podcast. Definitely does work. Definitely did help me in the domains that I did well in. Three, what I did right is I um, used the assessment exam to identify, use the assessment exam to identify my weakest areas. Number four, also what I did right is I mapped my CISSP morning. And what I mean by that is it kind of kept me on track far as time wise. First, I did the GPS of how far it was from my house to the exam. I kind of doubled that time just to give myself extra cushion. Then I did a checkpoint of when do you leave the house, set an alarm. When do you take a shower and put on clothes and get ready, set an alarm. And then the wake ups, kind of working it backwards just to kind of make sure I stayed on point with that. Definitely will be using that again. Um, let's talk about what I did wrong. I waited too late to take my assessment test that identified my weakest areas. Waiting too late just gave me not enough time to really study those weak areas and get ready for the date I'd already committed to. Um, I kind of just wanted to get it out the way since I kind of had that, we'll say, one free try. And, I have another try to do a better study um, period before I take the exam, make sure I'm more ready. Um, Number two, what I did wrong, assessment test should have been at least 100 questions instead of just 50. What actually happened to me in doing this assessment, it was 50 questions. I took the assessment. It identified two weak domains. One of the domains was software development security, which is what I actually was below proficiency on the actual exam on. And the other was surprising to me was security architecture and engineering, which I've kind of worked somewhat in the area. And that one kind of hit me hard. I was like, I believe I'm better at this in this domain. I must just have some gaps that I don't realize. So I kind of attacked that study pretty hard, but I actually didn't study the kind of ran out of time and didn't study the software development security. So that was already a weakness going into the exam. I also had a blind spot because it was only, and I didn't notice it earlier. I don't know why I didn't pay attention to it. It was 50 questions. Two of the domains were actually missing. That's why I say I had a blind spot. It was asset security and security operations, which kind of came back to haunt me as well because security operations was the other um, domain that I was below deficiency on, and asset security, which I've been better at, but I'm probably a little rusty, was near proficiency. So that left some blind spots. If I would have took the at least 100 question practice test, it would have included all the domains, had enough repetitions within the domains to kind of get a good gauge of what my weak points, weak domains were. Number three, what I did wrong, I did not get to study one of my weakest domains, which I talked about was that was um, software development security. And also because I had the two blind spots, I really didn't study a lot on security operations and asset security. Number three, or number four, I did not get a lot of practice testing in, which I usually like to get for exams, especially big exams like this one. Um, Also, number five, what I did wrong is I didn't practice test enough to actually be comfortable with clock management during the exam. And I'll kind of go into that really quick. If you know anything about the new format of the CISSP, it is 3 hours. And it is 3 hours, and it is anywhere from, because it's an adaptive test, it is anywhere from 100 to 150 questions. So I should have did some practice testing to be kind of comfortable with getting enough questions answered to at least be over 100, time wise, because because it's an adaptive test, it usually learns where you are. So it may stop the test at 100 or anywhere between 100 and 150. And it may stop and say, we know enough to know that you wouldn't pass this test, fail. Or we know enough to know that you would pass this test, pass. With me, I think I was coming down to the wire and I had about 90 90 plus questions. Hadn't even got to 100, and I knew 100 was kind of that minimum area. And I knew I was coming to a critical point because you need to kind of get over 100 for not saying it'll stop at 100 because it can stop anywhere between 100 and 150. I know at least need to get to 100 for the right metrics. So I was kind of rushing with seconds left, and I think I ended up answering, maybe got to 103. So, to my point, the exam never stopped for me. It never stopped in the middle of the exam and said, okay, we know enough to know you failed, or we know enough to know you passed. Like my time ran out at 103, and I was kind of guessing at the end because the clock was ticking down. Barely had enough time to read the last couple questions. Basically, I didn't give myself enough time to be successful. And I think the exam, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, one, two, three, I did well on five domains. I think I didn't give myself enough time for the exam to even know, could I, um, was I passing probably some of the ones I was borderline on. I probably, if I would have gave myself better time management, I probably would have passed this exam even with some of the poor studying habits, as far as the domains. Um, but let's jump forward to the game plan. Game plan is to focus on the weak areas. That's kind of the good thing about, um, look at the good thing about failing the actual exam. You got that real practice, you got some real feedback. I know what I'm really weak at. So number one is definitely going to be to focus on weak areas from the actual exam attempt. Number two is take assessment tests of at least 100 questions to reevaluate my weak areas. And three, get plenty of practice testing in and, you know, other studying, of course. So that's my game plan. Just wanted to kind of, you know, I know a lot of us don't want to we want to celebrate when we win and we don't want to share when we fail, but I think it's useful to the community. I know it's going to help me, and it's going to hopefully, it's going to help others kind of avoid some of the mistakes I made and kind of get, without revealing too much of the exam, just kind of get a glimpse of the exam and what you may deal with going into the exam. So that's it for the episode. We'll see you on the next one.